Hey there boys and girls, Lucky here and welcome back to another CSGO video. So after the recent Noob to Pro episode about Awping, as well as my older guide about finding a perfect sensitivity in Counter-Strike Global Offensive, there were a couple of you guys asking about your zoom sensitivity, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. Alrighty, so now let's get started with the zoom sensitivity. And first of all, right off the bat I gotta say it's very hard to find your proper zoom sensitivity. It's really just more of a feeling thing, there's no proper guide to it, so make sure that you find out your perfect sensitivity first, so your normal look around sensitivity for your rifling, your pistoling, all of that stuff, because the zoom sensitivity is always dependent on your normal mouse sensitivity, meaning if you got 0.6 zoom sensitivity but you have like 1 mouse sensitivity or 2 mouse sensitivity, it's gonna be completely different. It's always just a percentage of your normal mouse sensitivity. Now, as you can see on the screen right now, I changed my in-game sensitivity for the zoom sensitivity to 2.25, and that's basically the 360 range. This is the zoom factor and also kind of the number you have to put in order to make it exactly the same as with your look around sensitivity. So for example, in this scenario, when I do use my mouse right here to go all across my mouse pad and try to almost do a 360, it's the exact same distance if I use 2.25 with the AWP as well as with the rifle. Now, to make it a little bit easier to understand, we first gotta shoot this wall, and stay with me, this is gonna make a lot more sense in a couple of seconds. So what we're basically doing is we're kind of just shooting the edges of our scope right here. So this was the right side, now we're also going for the left side, and then we can see based on decals on the wall how far and how big our scope is. And we're gonna do the same thing in a couple of seconds as well with the AK in order to show you guys basically your effective field of view, meaning the distance or the range within you're able to shoot at enemy targets and you're able to see them. So obviously with the AK it's a lot bigger because you do not have a high zoom level, meaning that it's a lot easier to just see the left and right side of your screen. And again, the AWP is a long-range weapon, meaning it has a scope, so of course our field of view with the AWP will be a lot smaller than with the AK right here. So guys, now we switched over to 1440 by 1080p. This is a 4:3 stretched resolution, and keep in mind the aspect ratio is always determining how wide or how big your field of view is, meaning that the bigger you go with the aspect ratio, the more kind of you're able to see towards the sides. And if you're going like 4:3 or even like 5:4, the field of view keeps getting smaller, especially horizontally. This means we're getting closer to what actually an AWP scope is kind of resembling. You can see right here, if it's very long range, the distance isn't all that big, but to the right side on the garage, it would be a lot bigger already. And as you can see, the scope, again, stays the exact same way. We can still see our bullet decals, and this means we still have the same field of view, obviously. Okay, this was lots of basic information before we can actually get into what's basically determining your zoom sensitivity, but again, the most important thing right here is that your zoom sense is always dependent on your normal mouse sense, and if you use one, it's basically relating to it from your field of view right here in the scope, relating to your normal mouse sensitivity, meaning that if you use one, it's essentially kind of like you would be looking through your scope right here, and then it's going from the left side of the screen all the way to the right side of the screen. However, you're not able to see all of that because of the black bars on the right side. You're only able to see the middle, the circle, where you actually look through the scope, meaning that if you use one, you're essentially having a higher sensitivity than was actually needed, unless you're basically like right here, aiming with the black part if you completely miss aiming. So the more confident you are in actually hitting your target, or best aiming at your target without being scoped in, the lower you can actually go with your zoom sensitivity. So for most players, it's the easiest to have something between 0.81 and 0.83, because that's basically the range right at the edge of the in-game zoom kind of scope, all the way to the left and right side of the inner scope, not the screen borders. And in my case, I feel very confident in just my general aiming, so I actually put it down to 0.6 in order to better track them at longer ranges and better adjust my aim for that scenario. However, I'm still able to flick long distances even if I completely miss it on the first try, so that's still something you gotta consider. I hope this was somewhat helpful. I know it's not the perfect complete guide, but as I said before, zoom sensitivity is really something that is relying more on your feeling. If you're not confident in your Awping and your zoom sensitivity, use something between 0.81 and 0.83. And with that, you should be pretty much good to go if you're already decent with your rifling and your pistoling. If you're more confident, you should be able to kind of figure out what's kind of working for you anyways. So as I said before, the more confident you are in your practically non-scoped aiming, the lower you could go with your number. But then again, there's always a pro and a con. The lower you are, the more you have to move your mouse and stuff like that. So just keep that in mind. I think that's pretty much all for now. I hope you enjoyed the video, and luckySkillFaker out.